thought I'd looked out and come across a bench then, but no. There's a salt bin. Oh well, carry on. Hi there, welcome to my new video, and I'm doing this a little bit differently from what I've usually done before. Don't worry though, I do get out and about, but I wanted to include some of this way of talking to you and telling you the story of the places that I'm visiting. Before I do, I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out for this one. I just recently finished this book, Surfacing by Kathleen Jamie. Kathleen Jamie's Scotland's current Makar, or Poet Laureate. It's an extremely good book. It's actually my favourite that Kathleen Jamie's done so far. And it's a really interesting look into archaeology and the people involved in it. In line with that, I recently just started reading The Salt Path by Raina Wynne and Joan Didion's Slouching Towards Bethlehem. That being said, whilst I was out filming the main footage for this video, I also picked up this history of Great Britain from 1688 to present day. Of course, the present day of this book was 1939. So there's a big chunk of quite important history missing from it. The book, though, I picked up from Kilcreggan Antiques, which is run by Rue Irvin, who, if you watch antiques type things on the BBC, you'll have seen her. Cheers, thank you. It is a little bit drizzly, so I'm going to take you into Evie's retro shop, which is really quite cool.
little house. Tesco Mobile won't increase monthly subscription prices for pay monthly services during minimum contract period. See tescomobile.com.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
And now I thought I'd take you in to see our local antique celebrity Rue. Unfortunately, because my camera doesn't have a proper record indication on it, it actually didn't record that section. So the little section of Rue Irvin in this video that there should have been, I've only got a little snippet of us saying thank you to each other. So apologies to Rue Irvin for that one.
Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. You and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
Today, I'm taking you somewhere a little bit different. It's not actually in the Clyde, it's across the Firth of Clyde in Argyll. It's a place that I like to refer to Scotland's quiet Malibu, which may sound like a bit of a stretch. It might not look like it very much at the moment. There's no gold sand beaches and it's not in Southern California. It's on the west coast of Scotland. It's actually a couple of villages that lie on the Rosneath Peninsula on the Firth of Clyde, which sits between Loch and Loch Long. Today there's quite a vibrant small community there that is very different from what was there prior to its origins just 150 years ago. The area is really quite beautiful, with hills and mountains that are literally rising out from the seashore, and the villages and houses have to run along a coastal pathway, a coastal road. One of the reasons that I'd say that there's a similarity there with Malibu. But one of the core reasons why I say that it's Scotland's Malibu is actually because of the community and the people that were responsible for creating that community. Kilcreggan as we have it today, pretty young as far as things in Scotland are concerned. The contemporary community that's there today didn't exist a little over 150 years ago, just wasn't there. How come this went from a little village to actually a small town? Well, let's get into that. First of all, I just have to get up this hill. Over a century and a half ago, the community that was there was tiny. It was a small fishing community, and the only way to and from the peninsula was largely by sea. There was something of a dirt track road, but as it was a fishing community, well, going places by sea wasn't all that unusual. So, Kilcreggan house behind me, that should give you a clue as to what happened here. Because what really happened here was a spillover from the Industrial Revolution, the first one. And Kilcreggan house isn't a one-off either. There's actually a whole load of huge houses like that. Some of them actually even more grand than Kilcreggan house. I mean, actually, Kilcreggan house is starting to look a little bit run down, but it's been done up to turn it into a hotel. So as Dunoon began to attract holiday seekers from Glasgow trying to escape the stench and miasma of the city, the Earl of Bute, who actually owned the entirety of the Rosneath Peninsula, and much more besides, saw an opportunity to make bank. After all, the wealthy vacationers from the city who've been travelling to Dunoon had been buying up some of the properties that lay beside the water in particular. But how were any of those super wealthy industrialists and titans of industry meant to show off their great wealth and prowess with a fishing cottage? So the Earl of Bute started selling parcels of land on the Rosneath Peninsula with a small ground rent attached, which was known as a few. And this offer of much larger pieces of land that had been untouched on the whole was extremely tempting for those people that really wanted to show off. One of the grandest houses around the corner by the side of Loch is already a hotel, and that's pretty impressive. And so the rich and powerful came to Rosneath Peninsula. They came for the clear water and the fresh air. At a time when the majority tended to believe that bad smells caused disease, so getting out of Glasgow seemed like a good idea on a regular basis. The Earl paid for a new pier to be built for the paddle steamers to dock at. The pier still exists today. It's in fact the very same pier that the ferry used. I thought I'd looked out and come across a bench then, but no. There's a salt bin. Oh well, carry on. The pre-existing village of Kilcreggan was almost entirely destroyed. There's very little of it remains today. Most of Kilcreggan proper was replaced with tenement buildings that were actually primarily for the servants. Nothing much is really known about that original population and what happened to them. And so these native Gaelic-speaking Highland fishermen, the entire communities, were all displaced. I'm sure I've heard that kind of story somewhere before. It's a little windy here now, but it is here, along the waterfront, heading into the area known as Cove, where the Malibu thing really starts to play out. Because you can just see, with views over the sea. mean, the homes are pretty fantastic. And as you head down here, they get even more fantastic, even more impressive. One of the pinnacles of this period of building you can find in Loch House and Castle. The castle itself was built on the grounds of an old fort which there are no remains of today. And the entire place is now a hotel, which apparently does quite a good afternoon tea. I've been thinking about trying it out, so if you'd like to see that, leave a comment. This is a remarkable place, it's really quite beautiful. But there's a bit more to it than just the ousting of a small fishing community for wealthy people to build huge houses. Finally found a bench and a bit of shelter. It's not as windy around here. That's good. Well, suffice to say, people bought property, they built huge houses, particularly along the shoreline of Loch Long. The houses got grander, more impressive, but it didn't last. Certainly, the owners of many of the houses today are quite far away from the super rich that are responsible for those houses being built. And that's because nothing stays the same, things change. In the case of the Rosneath Peninsula, a few different things happened. The first and probably most important was 2 world wars. The hegemony of the British Empire waned and fell. The entirety of the Firth of Clyde area became heavily militarised. And even though there were already some military establishments around the area, the extent of the militarisation during the wars was so huge that pretty much all of the civilian populations that weren't directly involved somehow in the military aspects were largely forced out. And the area became somewhat less desirable to live in. Many of those homes began to feel into disuse and disrepair, but it didn't end with the war. Indeed, it carried on for quite a while afterwards as holidaying abroad, going on vacations in other countries, became cheaper and easier and far more normal. The idea of owning a holiday home just down the river, it didn't hold the same kind of gravitas that it once did. Today the area now attracts people for whole different reasons, and the people that live there are once again people looking for a quieter life for themselves. Kilcreggan and Cove have gradually become quiet little sleepy villages again. It's kind of poetic in a way. The land isn't owned by the Earl of Bute in the same way anymore, and the Borough Hall that was built, Cove Borough Hall, well, that's now become wholly community owned after being bought from the local county council. There are of course still elements of that militarisation, but it's been waning over time, and one of the most impactful areas of militarisation on the Firth of Clyde that existed right up until the 1990s still has hints of its existence available to see. And you can find those just across the water around Dunoon. But that's a different story. And I'm going to take you there next. If you have enjoyed this video though, please leave me a like and don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so that you get notified when I upload the next video. I usually upload a video every Sunday, so keep an eye out if you're not going to do that. I also have a Patreon, which is linked below, and you can check that out if you want to give even more support to this channel and what I'm doing here. If you're interested in learning even more about Kilcreggan and the paddle steamers that served the area, then I've left a link to my articles on Medium about it, and you can give those a read. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll be back next week with more stories of the often missed and overlooked places and people of the world.